But now, Strike returns to our TVs tomorrow night, the BBC One drama based on J.K. Rowling's best-selling crime novels, which she writes under the pseudonym Robert Galbraith. And I'm just delighted to say that, well, at least one of its stars is here today to talk about it. Here's a clip from the news story Troubled Blood.
Looks like Talbot based an entire theory around the Zodiac.
Yeah. I can't stand all that stuff.
What sign are you?
No idea.
Oh, come on. Everyone knows their star sign. Don't pretend you're above it.
Sagittarius, Scorpio rising, sun in the first house. No, I only know that because my mum was crazy about that shit.
Mm-hmm. What the hell does sun in the first house mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
Look at this, though. The killer is Capricorn. Capricorn kills Julie W. It definitely looks like he had a suspect in mind.
A horned goat deity. Try getting one of those to court.
You can be insane and right at the same time.
That sounds like something you'd read on a fridge magnet.
I just don't think we can discount all of Talbot's theories just because he got ill.
Well, that is Strike Troubled Blood, and Tom Burke plays the private detective Cormoran Strike, and Holiday Granger, his detective partner, Robin Ellicott. Tom is with me now, and we have high hopes that Holiday Granger will join us in time, although she may be out solving crimes. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. It's a whole other mystery. I don't know. Perhaps we'll solve it.
Well, you know, maybe it's the next season. Look,
yeah.
After I watched the I think it was the fourth Strike story on TV, I wrote in the Times that Strike was a classic waiting to happen. So I've always been keen. So lots to live up to here. The new series it opens with Cormoran Strike visiting his family in Cornwall when he's approached by a woman asking for help in finding her mother. Tell us a bit about this, the story of the fifth series.
Well, it's a cold case involving possibly a missing person. They don't know exactly what's happened to her. They have the kind of case file of the previous detective, Talbot, that you hear them talking about there, who has suffered some sort of mental breakdown whilst being on the case and got obsessed with all kinds of esoteric notions of how solving the crime might be helped by the Zodiac. Which sort of taps into another character involved with the case who has leanings in that direction. Yeah, we're kind of trying to unpick through his kind of strange scrapbook of magic and the occult, really, to see if there's anything in it. And as you heard from that clip, Robin's a bit more thinks there might be something in it than Strike is.
And it's very, I mean, there's a lot of flashback. It's very sort of evocative of, well, time and sort of past time and period as much as it is the present time and period. Look, there are a lot of TV detectives out there, and yet Strike often seems, at least to me, to be something of a cut above. What is the USP of Strike? Why in a crowded field does it stand out, do you think? I mean, apart from you, obviously, which is what I should have said. Apart from you. Yeah. What a rude question.
No, I mean, straight away, I think it is to do with the relationship between them, and I think they're both people who are perhaps more defined by their relationships with the people around them than your average detective, who's often so much of a loner, so much of an outsider that no one ever really quite manages to get through the cracks, and somehow these two do with each other, sometimes in spite of themselves. They just seem to keep prizing the other person open, and I think that's a very nice balance to an otherwise very sort of macabre world that they're in.
It makes it very warm, and there's kind of and sort of and human, because there's need between them. Are the characters like? I mean, from your perspective, how much does it matter that, as well as being so sort of so close and so fond of each other, they're also kind of battling their feelings for each other? They're both in conflict about their feelings for each other.
Yeah, I mean, I think what makes us feel for them within that is that because there's something so profoundly respectful in terms of their attitude to each other, that you understand why they don't want to mess that up. And so it's not purely kind of annoying that they're not kind of getting together because of whatever else might be there.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more going on than just Ross and Rachel, should we say?
Yeah.
The script is
Well,
by.
there was a lot going on with Ross and Rachel, to be fair.
There's different things going on than with Ross,
Yeah.
Ross and Rachel. I mean, imagine there wasn't. That would be astonishing. Look, the script is by Tom Edge, who we've had on this program, and
Yes.
now seems to write approximately 87% of all big TV drama these days. But he said about the show that people use, his quote was, "People use old-fashioned as a pejorative word, but to me that's part of why these books and I hope the TV series work so well." What do you think he means? Does it feel old-fashioned to you, and why is that a good thing?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you've mentioned Tom, because I've failed to mention him in the last few interviews I've given, as I've been so busy talking about the books, and he does a brilliant job of adapting the books. I think particularly perhaps the TV show, because I think actually the books are very detailed in their understanding of surveillance and all that stuff, and I think a TV show being a TV show, we've always had to shoot it in a way that kind of leans into the genre and leans into something a little bit retro and similar to perhaps other TV shows we've seen in the past. And we've always, I suppose, taken the attitude that that's there to be enjoyed. So I would take that from it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. Look, for those who don't know, your character, Strike, he's a disabled ex-soldier turned sort of Soho private detective, but he's also the illegitimate child of a rock star. There's an awful lot going on there, and yet his character is quite sort of a low key, as in he's a sort of like introverted, subdued person. So I mean, in terms of playing him, how important is there having such a sort of a, I mean, I guess the interplay between that incredibly rich, noisy backstory and the subtlety of the performance, is there a tension there that you can sort of feed off?
I mean, my understanding of the amount of pad thais and shepherd's pies and pints of beer he drinks was always that was a kind of insulation of some kind between him and the outside world, and the outside world represents an awful lot of his past. In a sense, there's a lot there that brings that stuff up. So that was always, two sides of the same coin, in a sense, for me.
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely makes sense. And look, both the main characters have a lot going on in their home lives, but family things in particular are complicated for Strike at the start of this news story. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, his aunt and uncle who live in Cornwall, and it's partly where he grew up. His aunt Joan, played by the wonderful Linda Bassett, is very ill. We know at the beginning, and more severely ill than we'd first imagined. We know pretty quick, and Strike's always been slightly reluctant to be completely honest with how much of a mother really she's been to him, and how much of a father that Ted, equally brilliantly played by Ian Redford, has been. And so the dawning of that is a gradual thing as he realizes he's losing her. And there's an ongoing theme with the case they're doing also about parents and mothers and fathers. So there's a nice kind of parallel there.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a bit about what it's like on set, what the atmosphere is like. I know Sue Tully directs very skillfully, and she's got many big credits now. How long did it take you to stop looking at her as Michelle Fowler from EastEnders? Does that ever come up?
I think I'd had that conversation with. She'd done an episode of Musketeers, and we'd got
right,
on
of
hugely.
course, yeah.
And I'd probably maybe I hadn't had that conversation. There was certainly, because I was a big Enders fan, particularly back in the day, and I did have a load of questions. But you wait for the right moment, and she's such a kind of perfect addition, really. I mean, she's been on the show since Lethal White. And yeah, I think there's a real shared atmosphere, kind of focus and fun balance with her and Holiday and the whole crew. We had a fantastic DOP, and all the HODs have been great.
And look, presumably when the show started, I mean, more than most others, the profile of J.K. Rowling meant you could be reasonably sure that sort of the station and TV executives were going to get behind it and recommission it. Is she involved much? Is she on set? Do you ever see her floating around?
No, the only time. Well, no, she does tend to come on set once or twice,
Mm.
and I think she was on set for a London bit and a Cornwall bit this time. Previously, it was because we did the first 3 books just bang 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 one after the other. It would often be if it, we'd go from doing the read through to being on set or finishing on set and doing the read through. So she was often there for that. She chips in when she feels it's needed, and it's. I mean, I think there's a lot of she has a lot of trust with the team, with me and Natasha, who plays Charlotte on the last one. She wanted to talk us through the history of that relationship, which isn't necessarily completely specified so far in the books. And she said 1 or 2 things when we first began, but other than that, she's very kind of, you do your thing with it, with all of us.
Oh, well, I mean, it's such a rich show, which I'm sure a lot of that just comes out of the depth of talent, both in the cast and everybody else. I mean, you've also had a lot more going on this year. You were in the Lazarus Project as a terrorist, the terrorist Rigroff, I believe his name was. What else have you got coming up in the near future?
Well, I'm about to do the second series of the Lazarus Project in January and February. I was just shooting for 5 months in Australia on Furiosa, which is set in the Mad Max world. And I don't know after that, but I suppose I expect it'll be at least 2 years before that's on anyone's screen because of the amount of post-production that goes into it.
Sure. Well, look, thanks very much for coming on to talk to us. And if you do speak to Holiday, tell her hi. Very nice to speak to you, Tom Burke. Thanks very much indeed. And episodes 1 and 2 of Strike are on Monday and Tuesday night, and the whole series, I think, is available to view on iPlayer once the first episode airs. Thank you very much indeed, Tom Burke. We've had some emails while we were talking. Patricia emails saying, just discovered Strike last night. Great so far. Lovely winter watching. Indeed it is. It's a sort of British noir, very rich show.